Why is it that I have to work 40 hours a week just so I can have a place to live? 40 hours a week makes me $2,000 a month, and my rent is $1,660. So I work 40 hours a week so I can have a 2-bedroom apartment and an extra $300 a month. Like, it doesn't cover my phone, internet, food, So not only do I not have any extra money, but just working makes me so exhausted that I don't have time either.
And I will say, yes, you are entitled and spoiled and lazy, and you need to stop crying like a little pathetic baby. Because no matter how legitimate your complaints might be, you still have to live your life. That's the thing that you people miss. The other option is to stand paralyzed, waiting for the road to smooth out ahead of you, but it never will. But I noticed these self-pitying Gen Z rants are rarely directed at the university system, which is the system that scammed you and gave you the worthless education that they charge you 6 figures for. You can't afford 40 hours a week, you cannot afford a studio apartment. That means everyone's homeless. Like almost everyone in the world is homeless now.
So 40-hour work weeks are something we all know and love. You shouldn't complain about them. You shouldn't say they're outdated. You shouldn't say most jobs are completely unnecessary to the functioning of society and just serve to make someone else rich and for someone wealthier than you to extract your labour value. No, it's the way things have always been, and therefore you should not complain. And it was like that when I was younger, so therefore nothing should change. That is generally the neoliberal capitalist ideology. And I made a video, I think it was in October, of this viral TikTok of this girl who had just started a new job for the first time, I think, after university. And she's just talking about how she didn't have any time in her life to do anything anymore because she had a 40-hour job and a long commute as well.
If I was able to walk to work, and it'd be fine, but I'm not. So it literally takes me, I leave here I get on the train at 7:30 and I don't get home till 6:15 earliest. And then I don't have time to do anything. I want to shower, eat my dinner, and go to sleep. I don't have time or energy to cook my dinner either. I don't have energy to work out. That's out the window. I'm so upset.
Totally fair. I know something a lot of us can relate to. But liberals and conservatives both started attacking this woman because they said, well, back in my day, that's just what we did. I worked even longer. I did 60 hours. How could you complain? And we've got a follow-up where someone else has posted about the grim realities of living in late-stage capitalism. And yeah, people feel the need to remind this person, well, it could be worse. You could be a peasant in the 1600s. You could be working in the early 1900s without a union in a cramped apartment with 10 other people, right? Because that's the bar. And what amazes me about some of these arguments you're going to see from people like Matt Walsh is that these people are capitalists. And the argument used to be that capitalism has both improved the quality of life for the human race and also will keep continuing to improve our lives. It's raised so many out of poverty. But now it seems like even the capitalists aren't really making that argument anymore. Their argument is, well, it maybe was better for one generation after World War II, but life wasn't better in most of human history, therefore deal with it. That is the argument, because conservatives fundamentally don't want anything to get better. That's why they're conservatives. And I do hate the discussion around things like work weeks, is that people just can't imagine a better world. It's, capitalist realism. It's that the only thing we know is the only reality. We only know neoliberal capitalism, therefore life just has to be neoliberal capitalism. Therefore everyone has to go to large cities, to commute long hours, to work shitty jobs for shitty bosses, to work in jobs that don't mean anything, to work in industries that are completely pointless to any human society. Like I said, most things just exist for corporate profit. So what I wanted to do today was just look at this new viral TikTok, look at some of the reaction online to talk about how both inconsistent their argument is and just how absurd it's getting for them trying to defend capitalism. Especially from a guy, by the way, who is a millionaire, hardly works, has a team of people who edit all his videos for him, and by his own admission, doesn't actually do any housework. So yeah, I don't think this is the guy we should be listening to about hard work. So all of that coming up for you today. And yeah, just like the video, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And yeah, support me on Patreon if you want to get access to the Discord server and just generally support my work. So obviously these days I'm a full-time YouTuber who just sits around doing nothing all day. But in the past I did have, you know, pretty standard commuter corporate job. And I spoke about that at length in my other video about this, so I'm not going to go over everything. But yeah, basically after university, got my master's degree in international relations, had some experience in journalism, so I wanted to do that. Looked for a whole year for a job at London. So many interviews, so many last stage interviews, literally getting down to the last two, and then like not getting the job. But not only that, not actually hearing back from the company, like really terrible experience. And after a year, nearly like a year to the day, I did get a job, and I knew what I was in for because, you know, I'd already done the YouTube channel. You guys might even have followed me since this time, late 2019. But I was a communist already, so I already knew what I was in for. And then all my free time is now gone, and now I am getting up at 6:30 in the morning. I'm leaving my house at like 10 to 7, commuting in, and then I'm getting home at 7 p.m. That is a big shock for a lot of people. It radicalized me even more, even though I knew what I was getting myself in for. And like, I didn't like really hate my job, but the pay was terrible. My boss was bad. And yeah, having a 15-hour commute on top of a 40-hour work week and paying for the privilege, I think my daily commute was 1 hour's pay per day, right? And that's before I spent any money. Maybe if I want to get like a sandwich or something, if I'm hungry up London. Yeah, it's not great. And public transport can be quite unreliable, even in a good city like London. And I just generally hated my life. And I actually went back to my office for the first time this week, actually, because every day I'd walk past this bakery, which had these giant cookies, but they were expensive and I couldn't justify buying one. So I went back this week. It's literally right by London Bridge. And I was like, I'm going to get one and go to my office as like a symbolic thing, just to say like how far I've come from doing this terrible commute. And honestly, it was just to like appreciate my life now, because I even went back to the office in August 2020, like the first people back during the pandemic. Still have hard feelings about that. And I quit 3 years ago. And also I quit because, you know, my boss treated me terribly, started saying stuff like I should be grateful that I still have a job. Don't worry, I went on a big rant against her. So I totally sympathise with students going into work and finding it very, very hard. And that is before we get on to everything else, like rent, bills, all that stuff. Just conceptually and giving all your time to have your labour value extracted from you, making someone else money. Oftentimes you see that person who gets paid like 500k a year, like my boss did, in an office with only like 10 people, and you're like, oh, I can see where the money's coming from, my labour, right? So I hopefully already played you the last TikTok we were talking about, but here is another one recently, and I'm going to react to what she says here as well. And yeah, you can probably understand that I'm pretty sympathetic.
Why is it that I have to work 40 hours a week just so I can have a place to live? 40 hours a week makes me $2,000 a month, and my rent is $1,660. So I work 40 hours a week so I can have a 2-bedroom apartment and an extra $300 a month. Like, it doesn't cover my phone, internet, food, you know? So not only do I not have any extra money, but just working makes me so exhausted that I don't have time either. Like, I get off work at 5:30, come home, and I'm just so tired. I'm so tired that, like, anything that I need to do outside of work, I then just push off to, like, the weekend. And I'm like, I'm just too tired to do this after work. I'll wait until Saturday. So then I end up with so much to do on the weekend that ends up having to be split into 2 days. So I have to do stuff on both Saturday and Sunday. So then I don't get a day off. I don't get a day to relax. I don't get to decompress. So it is really like working 7 days a week, constantly. And I don't want to do that anymore, right? Like, I don't care how poor and miserable I would have to be, but I literally can't have a place to live without this, you know? Like, I don't know what to do. I'm not made for this. I don't have the money, time, or energy to enjoy my life outside of work, and I don't know what to do about it anymore, you know? I'm so tired.
So yeah, lots of you guys will watch that and you'll relate 100%. I know I could relate to that back in the day because that's exactly how I felt as well. It takes up so much of your time, but not just that, it takes up so much of your energy. I used to leave work at 5:30 feeling okay, but once I walked through the door at 7, I was like a dead body basically because I was so exhausted from the commute home as well. Now, you have two options when you feel like this. You either give in and you just use all your time to regenerate, basically, which is what most people do because that is the way to stay like healthy, I guess. Or, like many other people do, you basically don't sleep so you can get some time back. So I actually was grinding YouTube 2 videos a week while working 40 hours with a 15-hour commute. I was also playing like football at like a pretty decent level, 2 training sessions a week and a game on a Saturday. And I would work out as well. I don't know why I was so crazy. It would end up me like sleeping 4 hours a night. I also had like bad neurological problems. Not good for you. Really not good for you. I look at pictures of myself from 3 years ago and I look older because I was so stressed. And then I had a bunch of like health problems from that stress as well. Because I just decided that I hate my job. I hate this 9 to 5 grind so much. I'm going to steal back my time through not sleeping. And luckily for me, it kind of paid off with the YouTube stuff. But then in my mind, if I would go back, I'd be like, well, you have to cut something out. So I'd probably stop playing football so much, which sucks because I love football. But that's what sucks, isn't it? You have to choose. But you shouldn't have to choose. Like, you should be able to live a normal life, work, and then enjoy your life outside of work. But that's not what capitalism is designed for. There is no enjoyment apart from the 1% and richer people. It's all about you becoming a cog in this machine to make someone else money. And like this person is coming at it from 2 angles. Not only does she not enjoy her life, and that wouldn't change by her being paid more, she's also trapped now because, like many people, she's essentially a wage slave because she can't even afford the bare essentials on her wage right now. And that's a common thing for a lot of people. And again, problems caused by capitalism. Public housing is basically not a thing in like most really capitalist countries these days, right? So even cheap housing is not a thing. Cheap rent is not a thing. Rent regulation is not a thing, right? So in that system, we're all fucked basically. And because I went through that myself and how much I felt like this woman here, that's why I'm grateful all the time that I do something different. But then I'm very keenly aware I could go back to that tomorrow, basically, right? And that's what incentivizes me to work so hard on my YouTube. A lot of you guys often say to me, well, you put out so many videos. And I'm like, yeah, because I treat it like a full-time job. Like I put the full-time hours in. Because what conservatives get wrong is we are not lazy. Gen Z and younger millennials aren't lazy. We just want to be compensated properly or have some of our own time. And for me, that's the compromise I make with YouTube, is that I'm working like all the time. I don't get much of a holiday. I get like 1 holiday a year over Christmas. And even then I have to pre-do loads of videos. And even then I don't do enough. So my income just like dives like that at the end of December. January's a bad month as well. So like 2 months I don't make great money. But for me, because I felt like that, it's better than the alternative. And I had my own schedule. Like yesterday, I didn't feel like working. So I didn't. I was always going to work on Friday, but I'm making up for it tomorrow, but I feel so much better. And even things like, you know, I got a haircut this afternoon. Before, I would have to get up like really early on the weekend to get like a haircut, or like maybe even take a day off to go to the doctor's to get a haircut, because you have no say over your own schedule when you're in this grind. So yeah, totally sympathize. I know a lot of you guys will relate. You'll have it even worse than this woman. But yeah, conservatives who have to do this too don't really seem to have any empathy, even though they've gone through similar or worse things. And if that doesn't, you know, epitomize conservative mindsets, I don't know what does. So just looking at the general reaction to this tweet to start with, and then we'll get on to my buddy Matt Walsh. People saying, well, the uncomfortable truth is that life only gets harder. But the good news is you quit being a big baby. You will get better at handling hard stuff. Gen X had a secret superpower. We knew nobody else gave a shit. These guys feel her pain. A picture of coal miners and child labourers. My God, people are weak. 40 hours is all. Yesterday, I did 10-hour day, just physical labour for pay. Then came home and cut wood for 2 hours. Then did paperwork for business for another hour. Then finally got to eat a spot of dinner before cleaning the house. People are weak. This is another thing I don't understand. And it feels like an American thing more, but because of Protestantism tied in with capitalism, they're so proud about how much of their life they spend working. Like, it's a bragging thing. I did 40 hours this week, and every day I came home and chopped wood and did paperwork. Great. Well done. I'm happy for you? No, I wish you didn't have to do that. I don't think this person's weak for not liking that, and I don't think you're cool for bragging about how much you work. Because I don't think anyone should work that long, really, right? You might see a few more comments like this, you know, just bragging about how hard people work and thinking it's like a sign of being a good person. 40 hours a week. When I started my life as a young adult, I worked 3 jobs, clocking in close to 100 hours a week. I never complained. These people are sad. Again, like, what is this? 100 hours a week? Are you serious? Maybe instead of targeting the people moaning about 40 hours a week, ask yourselves, why did you have to work 100 hours a week? Why did you have to work 3 jobs? It's not because you're a strong alpha male, it's because of capitalism and you probably couldn't afford stuff, right? People don't work 3 jobs for fun. So again, why are you blaming people like this just because you think you're better than someone because you worked longer? Like, no one should have to dedicate that much of their lives to working. Because you could tolerate it more doesn't make you a better person. Welcome to the real world. We know who to blame, so vote accordingly. Crying about 40 hours of work, try 60 or more hours and come and talk to me. So who's to blame then? People in this thread are saying it's Joe Biden's fault. But what do conservatives suggest would help this person? Like, are we talking about 4-day work weeks for everyone? No. But then this person's talking about, like, try 60 hours or more. So it's like this before Biden. So why does it matter who I vote for? Voting doesn't seem like it's going to solve this problem. And again, on that note, someone with a MAGA hat saying, get a studio, get a second job, work 80 hours a week. Some other conservatives saying, no one should have to work that much if the government has money to play psyop games on the world stage and launder money to Ukraine, then they can afford to not hyperinflate our money and rig the markets to prevent competition and innovation. I'm sick of people defending the status quo. She replies, oh, stop it. You sound like Michael Jackson singing We Are the World. Right now, people have to work, and they have to work hard. Sitting around crying about it on TikTok is ridiculous, and that's what you endorse. Do you think I sit here with this red hat on because I agree with what happened to our economy, what's happened to our children? Stop it, go attack a Democrat. What is this logic? They literally contradict themselves in the same sentence, saying people have to work hard right now, but at the same time saying, why do you think I'm going to vote for Trump? Because Biden essentially caused this. Why are you telling her to get an 8-hour job? Why aren't you saying, oh, I feel really bad for you, this is Biden's fault, vote him out? Like, isn't that more consistent logic? Not, yeah, this is Biden's fault, but tough luck, go work 80 hours instead? Otherwise you're like Michael Jackson or something? Yeah, it's just so bizarre. But don't worry, the hardest working man in America, who probably does 5 hours a week, chimes in. Honestly, boggles my mind that so many people think 40 hours of work a week is a lot. That leaves you at least 5 or 6 waking hours a day during the week to yourself and 2 full days on the weekend. How much more free time do you really think you should have? Just to remind everyone, this guy has 6 children. And apparently he has 5 to 6 hours of free time every single day and 3 weekends with 6 children because he probably doesn't look after his children. And actually, all the hosts of the Daily Wire have bragged about how they don't do chores at home. They don't do laundry and they don't do the dishes and they don't cook.
It's kind of a trick question because I hate them both equally. But I guess I would say I would rather do the dishes, but I'd prefer if she just did both of them.
Wrong answer.
Michael, to you.
Dishes, it's no question. I'm not sure in our entire marriage if I've ever done a full load of laundry, so I think I have that one.
I like it. All right, Drew?
Well, this is a trick question because I have not done anything around the house for 40 years. I've been a completely useless, but it's clear that if I had to choose, it would have to be dishes because she was just out of town for a month and I actually called her up and said, how do you do laundry? So I think dishes is the only thing I know how to do.
So no wonder people like you with 6 children are less busy than people like me with no children and no real responsibilities, because you've married someone to be your live-in maid, basically. They always tie in some misogyny with this as well. So of course, the reason you see women in these videos so often is that most women don't actually want to work professional careers at all, but they've been pushed this direction by society. But even so, we should be clear that taking care of children will mean working more than 40 hours a week a lot more. Life is work no matter how you slice it up, suck it up and deal with it. Again, millionaire, conservative YouTuber who makes videos about woke cartoons, and by the way, has a whole team of people working on his YouTube channel. He does nothing for his YouTube channel. Like, you know, someone like me, one person, do the thumbnail, write the description, do the timestamps, plan the video, record the video. Takes a lot of time to do all that, especially 3 videos a week. Takes a lot of time. If I sat in front of a camera in about one take, doing like a 2-hour live stream 4 days a week, and then I had a whole team of people to do everything else, I would barely ever work. And I know this for a fact because although he hasn't done this, Brett Cooper has showed behind the scenes photos where she has like 6 people working on her fake like Twitch stream show. So yeah, Matt Walsh lecturing people complaining about 40 hours when apparently you have 5 or 6 hours free time every day, 3 weekends, despite having 6 children and apparently working full time, doesn't really make you a good voice telling young people they should suck it up and deal with it. Someone replying, agreed, as a father of 4, I hate working. Working sucks balls. I hate my job, but I do it because I don't want my kids to starve. And yeah, like, you know, that's good of you to give your kids a good life. I'm glad you're putting your kids first. Again, he says, suck it up and deal with it. And he says, agreed. So can we not imagine a better world? Can we not imagine a better world than like wage slavery and then agreeing with people who say, suck it up and deal with it? Like, can we not imagine a better world? A better world does exist. We have the money, we have the resources. Capitalism was only invented like 300 years ago. Loads of human societies haven't existed like this. Neoliberalism has only been a thing since like the 1970s. Again, let's be more inventive. Let's imagine a future where you don't have to basically work a terrible corporate job 100 hours a week or your kids will starve in the richest country that has ever existed on earth. I remember I watched this BBC Archive Twitter video, and it was basically about a bin man up London, and he owned his own home, 1971 I think it was, and his wife was a stay-at-home mum. And it was all pretty normal to have a pretty manual labour intensive job working for like the council, and this guy had his own house up London. You can't do that today. No way, on a single income as a bin man. And that's what we're talking about here. People might have been worse off in some ways in the past, but the things they needed to survive were taken care of, and they had more independence in that they owned their own home. Now we're all just subject to other powers, landlords, bosses, being wage slaves. If you own your own home and have that taken care of, then you're not as much of a wage slave as someone like this. And also back then, what was also better? Union movements. So you had more job security. In the West, in places like, you know, America and the UK, union movements have been declining along with workers' rights and people like owning their own homes and stuff, and the ability for working people to own property. It's different in different countries. In the UK, Margaret Thatcher basically destroyed the welfare state, sold off all the public homes, sold off all our public housing and stuff, completely destroying the housing in the United Kingdom. But this is what makes me so mad about conservatives, is this person wasn't asking for the world. The same with other TikToks in the past. And we're not asking for the world. If you ask most people, what would make them happy? They would say, I can have my own home, I can afford basic necessities, and maybe a little extra. To most people, that is a fine way to live. I know personally, I'm not a materialistic person. I would love to just have my own home, make enough money where I don't have to worry about like losing my home, or like if I lose my job, then will I be out on the street? That's why I'm a communist, because I want that for everyone. Because I know how hard it is. I know how soul crushing neoliberal capitalism is. And because I've had a terrible experience with that myself, but I've also had a nicer experience like what I have right now, I want everyone to have more freedom and autonomy in their life, even with someone like me as a YouTuber. Yeah, I have stresses, I have struggles, stresses about money, stresses about work, all that stuff, but I still have that freedom, especially on my schedule. I don't have someone hanging over me, having my whole life in their hands like someone's boss, especially if you can't even afford the basic necessities. And I want everyone to be free, and I want humanity to work for the betterment of humanity, not most of us funneled into stupid corporate jobs, make people loads and loads of money while we get the crumbs and barely scrape by, being barely able to pay for rent and phone bills and basic necessities. And again, let's imagine a different world, please. Let's imagine a world without capitalism. It has existed, it can exist, and it should exist. And don't tell people who don't like working 40-hour weeks, barely make any money, that they should just suck it up because you did it or whatever. Like, have some empathy. So that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.